tuned for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled are actress Channing Chase and architect Douglas Hanson. Actress Channing Chase was born and raised in New Hampshire, and she stayed in that state until she earned a Bachelor of Arts at the University of New Hampshire. She went on to train with Larry Moss and David Craig. She worked at the Charles Playhouse in Boston and is a founding member of Pacific Residence Theater in Venice, California. Channing has been in more than 60 national commercials, appeared in lots of films, and has a big following for her abundant TV roles. Tell us about these sophisticated upper-class characters you play in ER, Home Improvement, Time of Your Life. Let's talk about those.
Well, an actor has a persona, something that comes across on camera. And what comes across for me is that I'm a upper class, wealthy wasp.
Snobbish?
Well, somewhat. Ladies with breeding.
I see.
Yes.
Well, does it matter to you that you are going to be cast like that all the time?
Well, I like to, once in a while, be cast against type. And some casting directors will do that. They'll take a chance.
Well, how did you get out of New Hampshire to follow your calling? I guess this was your calling, was it?
Oh, definitely, since I was 3 years old.
Oh, I see.
When my sister and my cousins used to give plays on the back porch, and I was the younger sister, so I got to collect the money and pull the curtain, and I vowed then
they did?
that I was going to get on stage.
You know, it's so funny. I hear that story so many times, and I guess all kids play this acting game, and yet the really good ones, I guess, go to the top and keep at it until they've made it.
It's storytelling.
I
That's
guess,
what it is.
Yeah. Did you ever want to write and tell stories, or did you always want to act?
I have written some things.
You?
Yes, I wrote an episode of a series when I first came to LA. Director Will Mackenzie invited me to come to the set where he was directing a show, and I had an idea. I said, I've got to write this. And it was, I had a character that was a golf pro that taught the leading character how to play golf. And when I did the writing, I discovered that it was so difficult. To write is very, very hard. I admire these people that do it.
So you couldn't put words in somebody else's mouth, but you can speak the words that someone writes.
Yes.
I was going to ask you if when you started writing, you went to writing classes, because all those people have gone to writing classes.
Oh, I know. Maybe that's what I should have done.
What came first, your commercials?
Yes. I wanted an inroad into the business, and I lived in New York, and I had a friend who did that commercial for Alka-Seltzer, his name is Jack Aaron, and I called him up and I said, Jack, how do I get into the business? And he said, you just go up and down the streets and you go into those advertising agents and you knock on the door and you say, hello, my name is Channing Chase, and may I speak with Raleigh Bester for a few minutes and introduce myself to her and give her my picture and resume.
Is that what you did? You had
And
to have
I
one
did.
person to
I
pinpoint?
had the name of
You
the
know the
casting
names.
director, and I would go and ask to just say hello and hand her my picture and resume.
And did they come and meet you?
Yeah, I think they were kind of shocked.
Yeah, I was going to say, most of the
Said,
time would they
"Who?"
come out and meet you?
Not all of the time, but when they did, they remembered me.
But they don't do that anymore, do
No,
they?
no.
They do it
No.
all with a computer?
Well, it's all submission, and there's not an opportunity to go knocking on doors like when I started out.
You were singing. Were you singing in one of them? Was it the Discover card or I Love New York?
Yes,
What
it was
it?
for a Discover card, and I was singing in a hurricane.
What is that? How could you do that? And how long are they usually?
Commercials are usually 30 seconds long, and some are 60 seconds long.
And then how long do you have to be doing singing over and over or being in that hurricane or whatever?
You just keep doing it until you get it right.
Is that right? For a long time sometimes?
Well, it takes a whole day to shoot it.
And then do they edit it all?
And then they edit it, yeah.
And you did, what was it? I Love New York?
Yes, they dropped me by a helicopter on top of a mountain. And
They
around
actually
Lake
did
Placid.
do that?
Yeah, yeah. And I climbed down this mountain.
And you did a lot of daytime. A lot of your commercials were seen during the daytime soaps, like you did Bold and
Right.
Joy and Bounty. You did those household items.
Uh-huh.
And did you play
Because-
the same woman?
Because I was like the lady next door. I was Mrs. Know-It-All, the one that would come in and say, "Oh, Blanche, why are you using that? That's not right." And then I would tell her the right way to do
And
it.
you give her the Joy
product,
or
right, right.
whatever product it. Do you still do that?
I still do commercials,
You
yes.
do.
Yeah.
Do you love it?
It's a lot of fun. But right now, I'm kind of busy because I'm doing a wonderful TV show called Mad Men
I know, and that's so great. It takes place in the 60s?
in Madison Avenue, and it just so happens that it won the Emmy for Best Dramatic Series.
I know, it won a lot of Emmys.
It won 6 Emmys. Actually, it was nominated for 16 Emmys.
Is that right?
And when all of the nominations came out, John Slattery, who was nominated for Best Supporting Actor, he said, "I didn't know there were that many categories."
The 16 times?
Yes, yeah.
When you worked on stage, in New York and LA,
Uh-huh.
did that help you in this TV show, do you think? The background, having stage background?
Oh, stage background always helps in everything to do with acting.
So was
Totally.
it different on the East Coast or like at the Boston Playhouse or say Pacific Residence, which is such a fabulous theater,
Oh, yes.
and they have the best actors there.
We started out in a little storefront over 20 years ago.
At Pacific Residence.
Yes.
I've interviewed a lot of actors from there because they're all successful, or not all, but many of them are very successful.
Mm-hmm. It's a very strong group of actors, and we never wanted to have it be a place to showcase anybody's talent.
I
It was
see.
always about the work and doing the work. It's like your home.
So Mad Men is about the work because
Yes.
here's these men on Madison Avenue, advertising agents, right?
Uh-huh,
Same kind of thing that you went through. Do you feel
Yes.
anything, the same kind of feeling?
Well, it's ironic that I was so involved with the advertising industry,
Yeah.
and here I am in a series that's about the very same thing.
And you play another sophisticated, very wealthy woman. Tell us about
I
her.
play Dorothy Dykeman Campbell.
Dottie, or Dot.
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 Dot, yes. But at one point they were contemplating firing my son, who was the fair-haired boy at the advertising firm,
Oh, I see.
because of something he had done. And they go to the owner of the agency, who is Bobby Morse. And Bobby says to them, "You cannot fire him because his mother is Dorothy Dykeman Campbell, and she owns half of Manhattan."
And you do, and you do. And is Bobby Morris the actor, stage
Yes,
actor? So
yes.
there you are. You have a lot of this stage thing going on.
Yes.
The 60s. Lots of smoking all the time on that.
Oh, herbal cigarettes.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
But isn't it always smoking and drinking?
But that's the way it was, apparently. I can't remember that far back, of course.
Yes.
But smoking and the cocktail in the cocktail glass, the martini glass. It's a whole mystique that goes with it.
And when you were talking about the way you costume yourself, too, to get yourself into that feeling.
Well, we're all required to wear period underwear.
Is that right?
That means we have to wear the bullet bras.
The men, too?
The corsets. Well, no.
Oh.
But they
But you wear those
the underwear that everybody wore in the 60s.
And does it make you feel like the character?
Yes, it makes you sit up straight.
Yes.
It helps my posture tremendously, but it also helps you get into character because you're in those corsets, and women at that point were second-class citizens. And you see on the show many of the women who work at the advertising agency, they work very hard, and their suggestions are the ones that the account executives take, and then when the credit comes, the men get the credit.
The men get the credit.
Yes.
So do you think those young actors that are on working with you have any idea of what was going on in the 60s like that?
I don't know. I'm sure they look at a lot of old Rock Hudson films.
And see that way.
Yeah.
Before we leave, I want to talk about your rose garden, because I think it's astonishing that the names of your roses, many of them are actors' names, aren't they?
Yes. Well, my hobby is raising roses, and I have a celebrity rose garden.
Cute.
I have Ingrid Bergman, Barbra Streisand, Marilyn Monroe, which is a gorgeous blush colored rose and beautifully formed, just like Marilyn Monroe.
Right? Well, what color would Barbra Streisand be?
Barbra Streisand is a lavender.
Oh,
and it's
beautiful.
The hardiest rose in my garden, and the most beautiful aroma.
Oh,
Just
how
gorgeous.
nice! What else? Tell
and
us
the Ingrid
names.
Bergman rose, which is a velvety bright red. Not much on aroma, but the color is exquisite.
And are you working? When do you have time to work at that? I mean, taking care of roses is hard.
Early morning.
Oh, is that
Early
what you
morning. I get up and I do a few every day. I weed a few, and I put in Dr. Earth to fertilize them.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so glad you came and told us about your character today.
Oh, thank you. It was my pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And don't go away. We'll be right back with architect Douglas Hanson. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. I'm with architect Douglas Hanson, who grew up in Dickinson, North Dakota, graduated with a degree in architecture from North Dakota State University, and obtained a master's from University of Colorado. Doug has worked with such well-known architectural firms as Hanson, Skidmore, Owings and Merrill, Franco Gehry, Marmol Radnitzer, I always say Radnitzer wrong, Radziner, and is now design principal at DeStefano and Partners. Let's talk about what the projects that you did with each of these, say with SOM. What were you doing there?
Sure. Right when I got to SOM, it was in the early 80s, and we just opened an office in London. So I kind of got immediately shipped to London and worked on some big commercial buildings.
Oh, you did? You lived there?
Yeah, lived out of London for about 3 years.
Was there a difference in the influence with what you would do for English people and American people?
Not so much. I mean, I think that they hired, oftentimes what happens is they hire an American firm because they want
Oh,
an
that
American.
feeling?
They want something that we're able to deliver. So
Oh, I
think
see.
it was the idea of bringing our knowledge of this project type to
So they were basically big commercial buildings.
big commercial buildings.
And they're there now.
Yeah, yeah. They built them over the existing. At this time, a developer had bought many of the air rights over these existing train stations.
Oh, is that
And they
right?
tore down the train sheds, unfortunately, and built these big buildings on top.
And then when you were with Frank Gehry?
Well, I went to Barcelona with Skidmore and met Frank on a project we did there. So
Oh,
that's
you
how
did the arts?
Yeah, Hotel de Arts in Barcelona for the.
Who did you do that for?
That was Skidmore and Zamero.
Oh, I stayed at that hotel.
Yeah.
And you had a Frank Gehry fish there.
Yeah, exactly. That's where the owner. When I was ready to leave London, Bruce Graham at Skidmore, I said, I'm going to go to California and work for Frank Gehry. And he said, no, we're going to do a project and we'll get Frank Gehry involved in it. And he did. He convinced the owner, which took a long time, to get Frank involved. And
So that nice gold fish is in the back. It's beautiful.
yeah, that was the precursor to Bilbao. I mean, that's where we learned.
Well, that's why now we're getting.
Yeah, okay.
That was before Bilbao.
Yeah.
And this is like part of the construction.
Yeah.
And you were what, project?
Project architect.
And what does a project architect do?
Well, I mean, this was a pretty unique experience because it's really managing the whole project, the studio and the development of it, and combining the design with the client and kind of managing that aspect of it. But working, closely with Frank.
Tell us what this is like, the inner.
Yeah, the structural frame, and it's all from straight sticks, but we got the curves with the second layer of
So you can
detail.
start seeing that,
Yeah.
and then I'm going to show the finished product, which is
Yeah.
all these curves and
Yeah, that was.
and
it
what
was
kind
a
of
very
material?
So it was, it's titanium, which took us a couple years to get it exactly right.
So this thing right here in the middle was
All-
that swoosh that that we saw before.
Right. So it's
So
finally
it took you
classed
some
up.
time
To get the metal right. It was a crazy process because at that time, Frank was using lead-coated copper, but you couldn't do it anymore. I mean, the lead was not a good thing anymore. So we had to find a material that had that.
I see.
And
So as a project person, you would start looking for
we
that
spent
too?
years and all over America and blah, 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 trying to figure out that material. So,
And then Marmal Red Nizar?
yeah.
Red
Zener.
I don't know why. I've had him on the show
Yeah.
too, and
Well,
I've talked
just
to
used
him.
to-
He's right across
yeah,
the street.
the old thing,
Red
so.
Nizar.
Red Zener. So we actually were classmates in
Oh, you
university, so
were.
that's where we met. And,
But they do very innovative, and they're very
Yeah.
green. What did
Yeah.
you work on any special?
No, I was there for a short time. I mean, it was, I think, we had an idea. We talked about how I could join them. But I think, it was a situation where those two guys had been around for a long time, and a third piece I could, just wasn't
Come
probably
up
gonna,
with.
Yeah.
So, and then Hanson, you
Yeah.
started your own firm.
We had this idea to move. I have 4 sons, and we had this idea we'd get out of LA and move somewhere where there were family and blah, blah, blah. So we ended up in Colorado for a year.
Oh,
And
is
so
that-
that's
are
how I
they-
started my own firm, was because I was gonna work for somebody.
Were
And-
they in school, or were they helping you, or was it just the idea of being
No,
in
they
a
were all
country?
very, very young.
Oh, so
I
it was the
mean,
idea of being in
just get out of Los
I
Angeles
see.
and go somewhere. And I was traveling a lot, so I got to meet, started working in San Francisco with Renzo Piano. So I was out of Colorado a lot, but my wife was left there. She's from Chicago, and it was a small town in Colorado, and within a year we were back in Los
You couldn't
Angeles.
do it.
So-
I think it's very difficult because an architect is more than just a creative builder. You have to as you say, the
Yeah.
project manager, what
Yeah.
you would do, you have to find material that works, you have
Yeah.
to work with people. So walk us through a little bit, what would the design team do?
Well, a project, I see it much more on a collaboration. I mean, I think my sense of architecture is so that, there's the design team and then the production team, but it's working as one.
They work together.
You work together.
And then like an on-site architect?
Yeah,
What is
they
that?
would carry the project on. So hopefully you get most of the work done in the office, and then it can be down to one person that just makes sure that it's kind of built the way that it
So
was
one
drawn.
person is
one or
watching
two.
over.
Yeah.
So what is that the same as the the project architect?
Sometimes a younger person that grew up with the project, but then they know where every doorknob goes, and you know, where on a big project, it's probably somebody younger.
So then that design team is still back in the office
Working
doing
on something else. Yep,
I
you
see, I
kind of
see.
moved off.
And then what about the senior designer?
Yeah, I mean, that person works closely with the design principal, you know, on the day-to-day, you know, they're in the studio working on it all day.
And is that what you're doing now at DeStefano?
Well, so
Or
I'm the
your
design partner.
principal
I'm a design partner.
So what does that mean?
Well, I control all the design aspects. We have 2 offices, one in Chicago and one in Los Angeles.
So
I
that's
run
the
the Los
creative.
Angeles. Yeah, so
I mean, it's more creative.
yeah, absolutely. So, you know, now I get to, you know, work on my own
You get to do
design.
your own
Mhm.
project. But what would the duties of this first design principal that you are do? I mean, I started reading. You do workshops. What
Yeah.
is that?
Well, you know, I think that, you know, the way I'm set up, you know, I mean, I like to work for clients that have some relationship with. So it's from finding clients that, you know, people that I can, you know, work with and that they get to meet me and then.
But finding clients it's not the same as building little houses and
No.
finding me to come and talk to you. How do you find I mean, clients are like a big
Yeah.
circle of
Yeah,
people,
it's-
aren't they?
Yeah, I think, you know, it's about relationships and introductions, and I think that, you know, it's you have to kind of, you know, when I have people come to the office, I think it's a great way as you know to see our work and see what we do because we have models and everything. I mean, it's hard to, so it's really a window into what we do, and if people go to the website, that's just a small piece, and I think because it's still for me a very hands-on kind of thing.
So you do workshops. Is that with the people that you're building with? And meetings, of course. You
Yeah.
have to do meetings. Meetings. And what, do you bring all the architects in from the firm?
Architects, engineers, you know, the whole land use planners and traffic people, and you start with a really big team to get it all kind of right, and then the team grows really big, and then ultimately kind of gets small again. So, you know, but you know, a big project.
So it's people outside of the architecture.
Oh, absolutely, it's a huge team, and I think that surprises a lot of.
Well, that's why I wanted to know who those people are that you have meetings with that come in from outside.
Yeah, you have, you know, traffic consultants, environmental consultants, structural engineers, mechanical engineers. It's more consultants than any owner would have ever imagined that they had to hire, because they think they come for the architect, but the list grows.
We were thinking about the trend in materials with building now, and also I think what we should concentrate on is museums, because I think that's what you've worked on a lot, and you know that. Is there a trend in museum building now?
Well, you know, I think there's a couple parts. There's the building and then there's the exhibits. And I think clearly what's happened over the last number of years is that, you know, it's kind of gone from the kind of cabinet of curiosity where it was just literally kind of a storage container for, you know, for pieces to...
A storage container.
You know, a very kind of historical kind of presentation to, you know, now the demands mostly are from the boards of museums and whatnot, or it's much more of an experience. You know, it has to be more than just, you know, the piece. So you have to create, you know, and working on the California Academy of Sciences in San Francisco, you know, it needs to be, you're competing with, you know, the theme parks and, you know, for the people's...
I see, with those kind
yeah,
of
I
places.
mean, that's,
so
you
you
want
have
somebody,
to bring people in.
Yeah, and the boards are under a lot of pressure or the boards put you or the museum under a lot of pressure to kind of theme it a little bit, which, you know, I think the jury's still out on that.
What is that? What is a theme?
Well, you know...
I mean, would Bilbao be a theme?
No, Bilbao is
it's
absolutely not a theme. But it's, I mean, there's Bilbao, the challenger, I think the way Frank and Tom Krenz saw it was that, you know, the container does influence the art. So, you know, you can see a small painting on a huge wall, makes a difference. And I think, so that wasn't so much theme, but I think you know, it's having a lot of video, and, you know, you have to kind of have a planetarium, and you have to have all these pieces that are...
I want to show this because we don't have that much time left, but this is a model that is in China?
Yeah, it was for a competition we did for a museum in China.
And it looks like a letter, is it?
You know, actually, it's 3 pieces, 3 bars, and we just twisted the middle one.
Can I turn it a bit?
Yeah. So we just twisted the middle one because it's actually 2 different museums. It's an art museum and a planning museum.
Oh.
So how do you make 2 museums in one building? And that was the challenge. So this is one museum and the other one, and then we just did like that, and then they connect every so often.
They connect every once in a while, but they're separate.
They're separate
on their own.
Yeah.
That's great because I was just in D.C. and they have the portrait gallery and the American art gallery, and they have a a courtyard
in the middle.
that's Sir Foster covered. So it ties it together that way.
But this one we look for an opportunity to say, how could you do it differently?
I'm going to show this.
Those were the interiors. And
so,
you know, try to play with natural light and you know, how to create very public spaces. And those were interior perspectives to do that.
So what kind of materials on the inside?
This was a metal, we saw it mostly as a metal skin, but really using technology to develop a pattern that doesn't have to be repetitious, you know, that it's not the same panel over and over again, but how you could, you know, through kind of...
So each room where you show the art would be different?
These are more the public spaces. I think most of the art spaces are a bit more neutral. But they do have, you know, from the very rectilinear end pieces to the middle piece, there are different opportunities to do that.
And then I'm going to show this one, because this is...
yeah, that's the sculpture garden.
Sculpture.
Yeah,
Is this outside?
Yeah, that one's open to natural air.
I have it the right way.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's it.
So what is this big
well, that's where the cracks between the two pieces are. So, you know, we developed this. Yeah,
these?
exactly. It's in here and here.
What kind of material is that?
It's metal and glass. So we wanted there we had enough control of the light that we could actually put more glass on the interior courtyard.
It looks like fish scales.
Yeah, I guess
In a way.
there's
I mean,
a very different scale, but you're right, at this kind of scale it does, yeah.
It's really beautiful. And
Well,
this
thank
is
you.
Anish Kapoor.
Yeah, we just steal a piece to make it, kind of give it a scale. And
That's not there yet, though,
yeah,
right?
no. So no, this is a competition, so it's...
So
yeah.
what happens in a competition? They have to choose you
They
now?
have to, you know, they're
We're
gonna,
waiting
yeah,
for them
we
to
just
choose
did another
this?
one in Korea a couple weeks ago. I presented, and hopefully, you know, but... So I don't do that many competitions, but, you know, sometimes you do it. And,
But these are all museums.
Yeah, they're museums.
Don't we have too many museums with like bad art? And
you know as much about it as I do, so I think, you know, I don't know. Is that
what do we call it?
Mocapi? Yeah,
Mocapi competition.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I don't know how we can fill all these museums, because I think the architect then becomes the artist, right? Because that's what's the draw. You want to see a beautiful building.
Yeah, that's, you know, I think that's the debate that's still out, right? is where, well, I mean, I think arguably that, you know, some people want that, but some don't.
Some don't. Okay. Well, I'm so glad you came today, and
Thank you.
this is beautiful. Thank you.
My pleasure.
And thanks for watching. Keep writing, and email me jaquinn1@aol.com, and we'll see you next time on the Joan Quinn Profile.